Hello once again, and thank you so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy. Up on satellite imagery here, we've got a low that was that strong storm that brought the strong winds to Kodiak on Saturday. That's tracked northwestward ever since off the southwest coast. Now moving up into the Chukchi Sea there with some gusty winds, areas of snow here along that boundary or that band of clouds there. Actually across the Seward Peninsula, up over the northwest, and then trailing back down across the coastal areas of the Yukon Delta near Nunivak Island with some snow showers out toward the Pribilofs there. Another batch of rain and snow showers, mostly rain down toward the Aleutians of the lower elevations there for the Fox Islands, western Alaska Peninsula. And then it looks like we had showers scattered out across the Aleutians with relatively light winds. Had some clearing skies today down looks like around Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, as well as southern Cook Inlet, as a weakening system continued to weaken, brought clouds and maybe a few scattered showers or areas of light precipitation. Nothing really significant across southern Alaska here, south central Alaska. That lifting northward and continuing to weaken. Today, having come up from the southeast to northwest there, another system down here to the south with a big batch of moisture up northeastward toward the Yakutat area there, from eastern Prince William Sound actually down towards Elfin Cove or so, an area of moisture there that's pulling up to the northwest as well, running that loop again. You can see the flow definitely from southeast to northwest here, and breaking out over 40-mile country, seeing some clearing today in that area as well as up toward and just east of Arctic Village, with even more clearing over the Yukon, and basically cloudy across the southeast coast. Maybe a little bit of clearing down there toward Dixon Entrance, Prince of Wales Island, and Ketchikan, and those areas. On the chart, here's that low continuing to move northward up to about 982 millibars from its minimum on Saturday of about 950 millibars when Kodiak had those strong winds, and has moved northwest moved northwestward here along and off the coast. So today, less in the way of snow showers and gusty winds, but still continuing up through here. Gusts maybe as high as 30 miles an hour or so, with areas of light snow or snow showers that really begin to taper off as you move south down along the coast and over the deltas. Some scattered snow shower activity over the Kuskokwim Mountains, locally up toward the Kobuk Valley, but drying out over Bristol Bay today, and mostly drying out over the Alaska Peninsula. Again, some scattered shower activity over the western part there, west of Cold Bay to Falls Pass, and in toward Unalaska. Otherwise, looks like some sunshine today, or this afternoon anyway, possibly for Kodiak, back up into Kachemak Bay, as well as Seldovian, possibly Homer, over to about Seward, with a batch of moisture here actually attached to this system down here, spreading up along the coast now in the form of rain or snow. Rain along the coast, snow in the higher elevations there, some of that coming in, linking up with some leftover moisture over the Talkeetnas today, associated with that first weakening system, and that's about all that's left this afternoon of that as far as any precipitation goes. And then a narrow band of some light flurries or snow showers up there from, say, Old Crow back down toward areas just along or east of the Koyukuk Valley. Nothing significant there as well. Dry, variable clouds for the Arctic coast and North Slope with pretty light winds. And again, more numerous showers out here in the form of rain this afternoon, Adak, Atka, on back out towards Shimia, where it's getting ready to try to switch over to snow as the snowfall levels drop. Tonight that may happen. This went all snow showers, wet snow here for the Aleutians. Better chance of that with actually most of the shower activity staying north of the Aleutians there in the Bering Sea. But you can see the flow. Some of that will probably slip on down into the eastern Aleutians tonight. Trough access through here. Scattered showers the Alaska Peninsula. Chance of light snow mostly off the coast here, but right across Nunivak Island, up across St. Lawrence Island there under the trough axis. And then showers continue to scatter out, but don't end completely. But they'll be quite light here over the western interior and all the way up to the northwest coast there. Winds continue to diminish. That low pulling back continues to weaken, less of a factor. Areas of clearing over the interior throughout the night tonight, actually from around Kodiak Island there, mostly Shelikof Strait northward into the Tanana Valley. Maybe some flurries up here along the eastern Brooks Range, possibly eastern border there. And then the next system, that storm system, actually the front, along the southeast coast tonight. So periods of rain, mostly over the southern panhandle. Chance of up to the north, may not see anything at all toward Skagway or the passes. Whatever you do get will be pretty light. Rain and snow, gale force winds along the coast later tonight, and definitely for tomorrow with a mixture of precipitation up across Prince William Sound. Mostly to the coast range. Doesn't look like much of that will work into the Copper River Basin. Back westward, possibly to Turnagain Arm, and then it cuts right off. And we'll see for tomorrow, actually, what happens is this original front here will sort of just do a slow dissolve over the panhandle. Right in this area here is an area of frontogenesis, and as the low center pulls back, we'll end up with frontal structure, something like this. And so that'll precip with this system will merge up with the original front, so it looks wet across the panhandle tomorrow. Periods of rain and gale force winds along the coast. Gale force winds for the North Gulf Coast tomorrow, and about 976 millibar low ends up just southeast of Kodiak now. And there's a narrow band of mixed precipitation here that has a little bit better chance of getting up farther to the north and across the Wrangell Mountains, Copper River Basin, but just barely reaching, say, Tanita Pass and then cutting off there along the Chugach Mountains, basically dry for Cook Inlet, and then a chance of moisture in those upslope areas of the western Alaska Range. Same thing for the Kuskokwim Mountains, maybe some snow showers. And that trough, very persistent out here, keeps snow shower chances in the forecast from the Alaska Peninsula northward across the deltas. Scattered snow showers for Nome, say, or Seward Peninsula, all the way up to Kivalina. Out to the west, a very weak trough coming over the top of that ridge for a little bit of moisture there into Adak and Atka. And now a little bit stronger system starting to show up out there to the west. And that brings us with a 984 millibar low for Wednesday, and the front line to about a position like this. Doesn't look like a whole lot of much of a wind producer at all, and actually doesn't look like much of a precipitation producer either, but look for some areas of light rain or rain and snow mix with maybe some small craft advisories moving into Adak and Atka. Ridging here for a little less wind. Still a risk of a shower for the Pribilofs into the eastern Aleutians, more so for the Alaska Peninsula. Good northwest winds here, bring some colder air down, so snow showers all the way down to sea level possibly along and north of the peninsula. Weak low there over northeast Bristol Bay. Chance of some areas of light snow or snow showers to the north of that. More extensive zone up here with this trough. Looks like periods of light snow from Stellawik Valley, northern Seward Peninsula, Kotzebue, back to the northwest there, wrapping around, catching just about all of the Arctic coast will have a chance of snow, except the east side a little bit less of a chance, and dry up over the north and northeast interior, all the way down to the Copper River Basin, dry for the Tanana Valley, and scattered rain and snow showers to the North Gulf Coast. A break here in the action, could see some little bit of clearing there over the panhandle early in the day or throughout the day, but the southern areas will see an increasing chance of rain throughout the afternoon as this next system and the huge mass of moisture with it begins to pull up to the northwest. Moving on to low temperatures forecast for Tuesday morning, right around 0 here for the central eastern Arctic coast to maybe 5, 6, 7 above. Generally above the 0 mark there for the Brooks Range in the northeast interior, and then into the mid to upper teens, Tanana Valley 40-mile country. 20s south of the mountains there, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, mid to upper 20s to mid to upper 30s right along the coastline to Kodiak. Lows in the 40s for the panhandle, and the Aleutians, upper 20s to near 30. Highs for the day coming up on Tuesday. We've got not too bad, actually kind of on the mild side for this time of year up along the Arctic coast there. 10 to 15 for the highs, and then maybe upper teens actually through the Brooks Range there, especially for Arctic Village. Mid-teens, Yukon Flats, add 10 degrees of that as you head west out there toward the Stellawik Valley and Kotzebue Sound, and then you're into the upper 20s, generally in the 20s to about St. Lawrence Island. Across the Yukon Delta, upper 20s to the highs, right around freezing for the Pribilofs. And then for the Aleutians, we're looking at Mid-30s to near 40 out there. Pretty typical for this time of year. Mid to upper 30s there for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Lower 30s, Bristol Bay. And some lower 40s showing up there. Iliamna or Homer down to Kodiak, lower 40s. And near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula in areas on up towards, say, Palmer and Prince William Sound. Lower 40s. Cordova could see a high of 47 tomorrow afternoon. And upper 40s for the Panhandle. Moving on to the forecast lows for Wednesday morning, shaping up something like this. Not much change, maybe down to near or just above zero, not quite reaching it there for the Arctic coast. North slope areas possibly down to or a little below zero, but not much difference. And 10 to 15 here for the Brooks Range in the northern valleys, just south of the mountains, upper teens to Kotzebue Sound, and anywhere from teens to mid-20s. Tanana Valley, back to the west, Seward Peninsula, mostly in the teens to near 20. Same thing here down across the deltas. Looks like the 20-degree isotherm will be out along the southwest coast. Mid to upper 20s, Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, mid-30s, Kodiak, lower 30s, south central Alaska, and 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle. Out west, upper 20s to lower 30s. Highs for the next day, upper 30s to near 40. That 40 will be mostly down towards Homer to Kodiak or Cordova, otherwise in the 30s. 30s out across the Aleutians, and up to the north, highs 15 to 20 for the Arctic coast, north slope. Looks like Brooks Range well into the 20s, mid to upper there, and mid to upper 30s for the highs for south central Alaska, and warmer for the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, rolling on to our first flying weather graphic here. Band IFR, Bering Strait. Western southern Seward Peninsula there, most of the Norton Sound, at least the central areas, down along the southwest coast to just west of Kuskokwim Bay, marginal VFR all the way back to the far western Aleutians. Some VFR here, Adak and Atka, and a little bit for the Fox Islands. IFR, North Gulf Coast, Gulf of Alaska, coming up there toward Cordova, and then angling back southeastward, just coming into the west side of Prince of Wales Island. VFR up here to the north. And for Tuesday afternoon, marginal VFR with areas of IFR, especially the Seward Peninsula, up along the northwest coast there to Cape Lisburne, and then from Cape Romanzoff on down across Nunivak Island for the coastal areas there. VFR, Togiak Bay, up into the interior, some IFR over the Yukon Flats. Marginal stuff into the 40-mile country becomes IFR down along the coast range. And then IFR out west, moving into the Aleutians there tomorrow afternoon for the next system. For Wednesday morning, advances eastward there to just about Adak with Atka in the VFR zone on over to just nearly on Alaska. They're still catching some marginal stuff that extends over much of the southeast Bering Sea, but going VFR for St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound, up across Selawik Valley and Kotzebue Sound as well. IFR here northeast to southwest across the Koyukuk Valley. And not too bad for the Tanana Valley in the morning on Wednesday, but a lot of IFR surging northward again for the North Gulf Coast and the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Looks like right up into the Talkeetnas there and on in toward the northern Panhandle. So for Wednesday afternoon, that kind of dissipates out here over the southeast coast. Just some patchy areas of marginal VFR in the afternoon, especially down toward the south, with the bulk of it along Prince of Wales Island and offshore. Otherwise, IFR here, western Prince William Sound, southeast flow here, so the upslope areas of the Alaska and Aleutian ranges. Same sort of pattern, and the Kuskokwim Mountains here, and the interiors you get up toward the Brooks Range, their conditions start to deteriorate. More IFR north of the Brooks Range, just about all IFR on out into the Arctic coast. And for the Bering Sea and Aleutians, marginal VFR passes both Anatuk and Adigan. VFR tomorrow for another day. Either approach. Lake Clark and Merrow, though, IFR, lowest conditions, best chance of IFR will be on the eastern approach of both passes, while rainy, looking marginal with lowest conditions east entrance, could be VFR there heading out to the west. And for windy, marginal VFR, most likely on the southern entrance. And for Isabel, starting out VFR, becoming marginal in the afternoon. Same forecast for Mentasta, but less of a chance of marginal VFR, and that'll be mostly to the south in the afternoon. And for Tanita, VFR, or marginal VFR, I'm sorry, and for Portage, IFR. Chilkoot and White, for these passes, look for a downward trend in conditions here throughout the afternoon. Sea lanes visibility is coming down through both passes, especially into the late afternoon. And for the freezing levels, we're looking at 2,000 feet here right along the border, 2,000 to 4,000 feet down toward the Gulf range in the Gulf of Alaska. And then we've got actually 4,000 to 8,000 feet here across the southeast coast. Milder conditions there at the surface out over just across the Bering Sea, just north of the Pribilofs. And for icing, areas of light to very isolated moderate rime icing here, mostly away from along or off the coast of the Panhandle, but the North Gulf Coast, Yakutat into Prince William Sound, and northward here across the western Copper River Basin, the Alaska Range, and then from the western Alaska Range down across Kodiak. Also for the southern southeast coast there, in toward Hyder and Stewart. Nothing out here to the west, except with the next system coming in way out west there, icing increases. And for the jet stream, this is the trough and the upper low still back in the Chukchi Sea, but that all associated with that next system coming in the western Aleutians. Weak ridge in advance of that. Main jet well to the south here, but splits here as it gets up toward the west coast. The high pressure ridge retreating, especially the southern portion, but kind of hanging in there up over the Mackenzie River Delta. Southeast 70 knots, not all that bad. Stronger flow heading into the south there. 9,000 feet looking like this. Pretty good winds with this low pulling southeast of Kodiak. 40 to 60 knots, eastern Gulf, and catching the Panhandle into Kodiak Island. Lighter up over the interior and more southerly. Northwest 20 to 25 out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And southerlies 30 knots, both at 3,000 and 9,000 feet up here from the Seward Peninsula and the west coast. Good easterly flow here, the Gulf of Alaska and southern Alaska, with lighter northwest winds, 25 to 30 for the Alaska Peninsula. Turbulence-wise, occasional moderate chop there all along the coastline into the Panhandle and also up here to the north.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me again is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. Thanks again for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Sure thing. And I love saying Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska's National Weather Service because that's not weather. Why is the Tsunami Program part of the National Weather Service?
Well, it's because the Weather Service absolutely rocks at warning people for every kind of, devastating natural hazard.
Mm-hmm. The mission of the Weather Service is to protect life and property. And so how does the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska, which is a very unique office, again, within the Weather Service, it's not weather, how do those folks help us protect life and property?
The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer is a national warning center, and we analyze seismic traces 24/7 all around the world. So when there's an earthquake anywhere on the planet, we see it and analyze it within minutes.
Within minutes, and
Within
there's
minutes.
actually a goal to have it under, was it 5 minutes?
If there is a tsunami warning to be issued for continental America, we must get that out, or shoot to get that out in 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that's not something I have ever learned to do, so I know it would be a struggle for me to do that under probably hours. But it is fascinating to watch, and the office is open on a regular basis for tours, right?
Absolutely. Come by Friday.
Okay.
Yep, every Friday at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. and they're open public free tours. And it's the most interesting place on the planet. You really should check it out.
Okay, and the office team is made up of people that are earth scientists, not meteorologists or atmospheric scientists. Talk about some of the types of people that work there.
Right, we are out of place in our National Weather Service, but we are geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers. We even have an astrophysicist on board, computer software architects, electronic technicians that are brilliant and innovative. Our software is all written in-house. Our instrumentation is designed in-house. Okay. So it's a really, really unique place, and it's just a couple handfuls of people that work there. So
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways to get a tsunami alert message is on Twitter.
Right.
And I can follow the Twitter address, and we'll put that up on the screen for you there. But it's usually a very quick message that tells you initially what the magnitude of an earthquake could be and about where its epicenter was. What are some of the other ways that you can get that alert message?
Well, Twitter's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And you don't even need a Twitter account to receive
Right.
it. So it
That's
just comes in like an SMS message. But you can also receive it via email, weather radio, of course, the crawler on your television screen, on the internet, Google Alerts.
Right.
Marine radio, if you're out in harbors and boats. Actually, marine radio is probably,
Yeah, it is a good one.
that's our partnership with the Coast Guard. We're really grateful for that, absolutely. But there's a variety of ways in dissemination.
Okay.
And locally, excuse me, I'm sorry, but
Sure.
locally in the communities, the sirens will go off as
Right.
well.
Right. So lots of different ways to get that very important message very quickly when that matters to you. One of the ways that the Warning Center practices with communities is a test on a yearly basis, right?
Right.
How does that work?
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a controversial issue, but it's super important to help us warn better and really serve Alaskans. So the week of March 27th, the commemoration of the 1964 event, for that week we have a Tsunami Preparedness Week every year. We like communities to get out and do drills and practice and do everything we can to raise awareness. And part of that is a live code test where we actually issue the warning message live and we activate the emergency alert system, which means sirens go off, the TV crawler happens, and it's a test.
We're doing everything that would normally happen without the real threat of the tsunami, just to practice as much as possible.
Right, and this is a major partnership with the State of Alaska, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center, and the Alaska Broadcasters Association. Without the media, we wouldn't be able to do this. So the three groups really work tightly together to do our best to warn, educate the public that this is happening so they don't wonder and get scared about it. It has been remarkable what we've learned. I mean, it pretty much breaks somewhere every time, but then we fix it and it gets better. So a quick example is just a few years ago, we used to, when we issued a message, it would activate the entire state. Right? I mean, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, everybody would be in tsunami warning. And so now we can regionalize it to where the actual event is taking place. That's pretty huge.
Right. So identifying points of failure and also points of success and making sure we continue down that successful path so that folks are warned as quickly and accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And, you know, to get our communities involved to prep themselves, prep their businesses, prep their tourism, prep their schools, you know, just make this an annual thing they need to be doing.
Right. So as citizens wanting to be prepared, we should be prepared to learn more about that test that's happening usually toward the end of March every year.
Right, and you should be happy that it's happening.
Right.
Instead of upset. Definitely be happy that it's happening.
Right. Just as we test tornado sirens in tornado country, we also have to test the tsunami program as well.
Right, because there isn't enough time. You know, for a local tsunami, the wave will arrive in less than 2 minutes. So it's super important that people know what to do.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for helping us know more about the Tsunami Ready program and the test. And the Tsunami Warning Center is a very unique and very important job in the National Weather Service that is just fascinating to me every time I visit the office. So
it's the only one for the continent. You really should come check it out.
It's an international effort.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
And thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis for this Monday. Again, not a lot of difference from the last several days. Got some area open here north of St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, not a lot of change with generally kind of a south-southeast wind going on. And that's going to go light and then kind of come around more north-northwest. Temperatures will stay on the chilly side. So the only change will be back up through here. You may see some expansion a little bit there, and possibly this week, this area open water will freeze over on the north side of St. Lawrence Island, but not to the south. And for look for gale force winds tomorrow here out of the south, 35 to 40 on the south coast there. Seas near 20 feet, 20-foot seas, southeast 40 for the north coast, southeast 20 for northern Lynn Canal, seas 4 feet. Gust out of the southeast to 35 knots, Stevens Passage, and sustained gales there for Clarence Strait, all from the southeast. And then for the next day on Wednesday, winds turn easterly, come down to 25 to 30 knots on the south coast, down to east-southeast 25 on the north coast, with seas anywhere from 15 to 16 feet here in the north to as high as 20 feet down on the extreme south coast. Southeast 20 for Clarence Strait, north 15, 3-foot seas for Stevens Passage. Northern Lynn Canal, 20-knot winds from the north, seas 4 feet. And for Prince William Sound, northeast, pretty good breeze there tomorrow, up to 30 knots or 30 knots sustained, 7-foot seas. Nearly a storm coming back into the North Gulf Coast, not quite though. High-end gales east 45, 22-foot seas, northeast 40 here across the western North Gulf Coast, winds to 35 knots for the Barrens. Turn northerly at 35 for Kachemak Bay with gales into southern Cook Inlet tomorrow out of the northeast, north 30 for areas north of the Forelands with 8-foot seas. And then for the Wednesday forecast, northeast 25, northern Cook Inlet, northeast 30, southern Cook Inlet, east 35 for Kachemak Bay. And southeasterly winds 30 knots here for the western North Gulf Coast, 15 to 18-foot seas back to the Barrens. And then we've got 40 knotters in the forecast here for the eastern North Gulf Coast there. Middleton Island with gale force southeasterlies blowing on into Prince William Sound where the seas will be 9 feet. Kodiak Island tomorrow, northerly winds 40 knots, good gale there right out of the north. North 20 for Bristol Bay, northwest 30, Sitkinak back toward Castle Cape. Across the Alaska Peninsula, look for a northwest wind at about 25 knots with 8-foot seas. And then for the Wednesday forecast, we've got gales, minimum gales develop here on the south side, Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula. Small craft advisories on the north side from Bristol Bay down to Cape Sarachev, northwest, 25 to 30 knots, 12-foot seas. East side of Kodiak, southwest, 25. Seas up to 10 feet, much better conditions Shelikof Strait with lighter winds at about 15. And then for Tuesday, out over the eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands, northwest, 25 to 30 knots there, with the strongest winds appearing to be across Unalaska Island. Seas, though, right around 10 feet. And west, Adak sustained 25 knots, seas just under 10 feet. And then winds turn south tomorrow afternoon, again with the approach of that next front coming in from the west, and come up to 30 knots, seas at about 9 feet. And then for the Wednesday outlook, hold that 30-knot wind. Looks like won't quite have gales with that next system at 30 knots, but seas up to 22 feet. And we carry the small craft advisories to Adak and Atka from the south-southeast. But notice those seas coming down to 6 to 9 feet. And then even lighter winds here as you get into the eastern Aleutians. But Unalaska Island still under that northwest influence of 25 to 30 knots with 10-foot seas. Southwest coast shaping up like this tomorrow. North of Nunivak Island, winds will be north at 20 knots with 6-foot seas. Pretty light there for St. Lawrence Island, just 10 knots out of the northwest. Barely a breeze also for St. Matthew Island at 15. Pribilof zone northwest 20, sea 7 feet. Small craft advisory south of Nunivak Island for 25-knot winds. For Wednesday, northwest 25, St. Lawrence Island picking back up there, and then northwest along the coast here 30 knots with 10-foot seas. Only 15 for the Pribilofs out of the northwest. St. Matthew Island picking back up to 25 knots with 7-foot seas. And for the western coast up here, western and central coast, southeast 15. And then from Cape Beaufort on down to the Bering Strait, we've got south becoming southeast at 25. So brisk wind advisories there tomorrow. Light easterly drift there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Outlook for Wednesday, pick it up to 20 knots there on the east side, all the way to the central coast, turning northeast 20 on the west side. Cape Beaufort down to the Bering Strait 25. South of Cape Thompson increased to 30 from the northwest. And moving on to tonight again, snow showers.